Fame isn't just about flashing lights, sold-out stadiums, and screaming fans. It's also about silence, the kind that comes after a mistake. And for BTS, the world's biggest boy band, that silence sometimes felt louder than any encore they've ever received. Behind the glossy perfection that millions see on screens, there are cracks, regrets, and lessons that shaped not just their music, but their survival. You think you know BTS? You've seen the choreography, the interviews, the laughter. But behind those 7 letters lies 7 different stories of pressure, fear, and missteps that almost cost them everything they built. In the music world, one wrong word can echo louder than a song. One misunderstood gesture can turn love into outrage. And one moment of human error broadcast to millions can rewrite a career overnight. What's fascinating about BTS isn't that they avoided mistakes, but that they faced them. They stumbled under the weight of fame, got burned by headlines, and even went against their own image at times. Yet somehow, they always came back stronger. But what were those moments when even HYBE held its breath? The moments when the world's biggest band realized that success doesn't mean immunity from failure? Tonight, we'll peel back the layers of perfection and revisit the 7 biggest mistakes that defined BTS's career. From cultural misunderstandings that set the internet ablaze, to controversies that made ARMY question everything, this isn't a story about scandal. It's a story about consequence. Each chapter reveals how a group of young artists learned to navigate the unforgiving world of fame, and how every misstep became a mirror reflecting the price of being human in a digital age. So, buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't the polished version of BTS that agencies promote. It's the raw, unfiltered journey of 7 young men who faced their own storms and somehow danced through them anyway. Number 7. RM's translation mistake that sparked a global backlash. It started like any other press event: cameras flashing, microphones crowding in, reporters leaning closer to catch every word. BTS had been invited to an international awards show, a milestone that cemented their reputation as global superstars. But amidst the excitement, one small slip from RM, the group's leader and fluent English speaker, became a storm that no one saw coming. RM had always been praised for his articulate communication. Fluent, confident, and philosophical, he was often the bridge between BTS and their global audience. But on that particular day, a single mistranslation in his live interview, a nuanced cultural term that carried different meanings in English, triggered an international misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. Some accused him of being insensitive. Others said he was misunderstood. Yet, what no one realized at first was how deeply RM took the incident to heart. It wasn't just about words, it was about identity. RM had spent years studying English, refining his way of expressing Korean concepts in ways Western audiences could understand. But language isn't just grammar, it's emotion, context, and culture. And when millions are watching, even a tiny misstep can become a headline. The mistranslation went viral within hours. Hashtags exploded across Twitter. Debates filled online forums, and global fans argued over what he really meant. HYBE quickly released clarifications, but the damage was done. RM's confidence took a hit. In later interviews, fans noticed he paused more often before answering, carefully weighing every word. What looked like composure was actually caution, the kind born from knowing that words can heal or harm depending on who's listening. But this moment marked a turning point for BTS. It reminded them that fame isn't just about being seen, it's about being interpreted. RM's slip became a mirror for every idol navigating between cultures, especially those whose success depends on global audiences who may not fully grasp the nuance behind their words. Behind the scenes, RM reportedly spent days reflecting on how to balance sincerity with sensitivity. He didn't apologize just to move on, he learned. And that growth showed in every speech he gave after, especially during the United Nations Assembly, where his words about self-love resonated with millions. Ironically, that infamous mistranslation became the seed for one of BTS's most powerful messages, the realization that language can both divide and unite. And for RM, it was the moment he stopped trying to sound perfect in English and started speaking from his heart. In a way, that mistake wasn't a downfall at all. It was evolution, because if perfection is the goal, humanity gets lost. And BTS, no matter how polished their image, have always been at their best when they remind the world they're human too. Number 6. Jungkook's tattoo controversy and how it almost changed everything. When Jungkook walked through Incheon Airport one quiet morning in 2019, no one expected a storm to follow him. The cameras were there, as usual, the flashing lights, the fans screaming, the staff clearing the path. Everything looked like another ordinary day in the life of a global pop star. But then, one photo changed everything. A faint ink pattern could be seen on his hand, letters spelling out what looked like ARMY. It was supposed to be simple, a small gesture of love toward his fans. Yet within hours, it became one of the most debated images in BTS history. The tattoo incident, as fans now call it, wasn't just about art on skin. It was about what that ink symbolized in a country where tattoos were still socially and legally complicated. In South Korea, tattoos are often seen as rebellious or unprofessional, especially for celebrities whose images are tied to purity and public appeal. And Jungkook, the youngest, the golden boy, the one known for his innocent charm, suddenly found himself at the center of a cultural clash. The internet exploded. Some fans defended his freedom of expression, arguing that idols shouldn't have to conform to outdated norms. Others worried it would damage BTS's reputation, especially with conservative audiences and older sponsors. Media outlets picked it up, dissecting every pixel of the image, every possible meaning behind the ink. Even the simplest question, was it real or temporary, turned into a national debate. Behind the scenes, Big Hit reportedly scrambled. Jungkook, usually confident and carefree, went silent for weeks. His social media presence dropped. Every airport photo was analyzed. Every sleeve pull became a guessing game. It wasn't just about whether he had tattoos. It was about what those tattoos represented in a world still catching up with modern expression. What most people didn't see was the emotional toll it took on him. Jungkook was always the kind of artist who lived for authenticity. He wanted to sing, dance, and live without pretending. But now, even his skin had become political. In one candid moment, shared years later, Jungkook admitted that the pressure to appear perfect sometimes felt suffocating. That moment, the tattoo controversy forced him to choose between who he was and who the world expected him to be. And Jungkook chose himself. Slowly, he began revealing more of his tattoos, not as rebellion, but as truth. Fans began to notice how his confidence evolved. The boyish image matured into something real, something raw. His art began to reflect that shift too. Darker tones, deeper lyrics, more emotional performances. Songs like Still With You and Standing Next to You carried a sense of honesty that felt different from his earlier work. Over time, the controversy faded, replaced by admiration. Jungkook's tattoos became part of his identity, symbols of individuality in a system built on uniformity. And while South Korea's views on body art are still evolving, Jungkook's decision helped start a broader conversation not just about tattoos, but about freedom. Freedom for idols to be human, not flawless mannequins. Looking back, that mistake, the one photo that once shook headlines, became a cultural milestone. It tested how far Korea was willing to accept authenticity over appearance. Jungkook's tattoos, once whispered about in scandal, are now proudly displayed in his Calvin Klein campaigns, seen by millions worldwide. What started as controversy became a quiet revolution. Because when the youngest member of BTS decided not to hide who he was, he gave permission to an entire generation to stop hiding too. Number 5. Jimin's live incident that shocked even big hit staff. It was supposed to be a normal live broadcast, one of those casual moments when BTS members connect directly with fans through a phone camera, joking, eating, or just chatting from their dorms or hotel rooms. But on that day, something felt different. The air was heavy. Jimin looked tired, softer than usual, with a hint of something unspoken behind his smile. What began as an innocent live stream soon turned into one of the most talked about moments in BTS history, not because of scandal, but because of raw vulnerability that no one saw coming. Jimin, known for his poise and charm, has always been the heart of emotion within BTS. On stage, he's flawless. Off stage, he's introspective, almost too self-aware. During that live, somewhere between answering fan comments and sipping his drink, he began to talk about something deeper, how he'd been struggling with pressure, expectations, and the idea of not being enough. His words weren't rehearsed. They were quiet, trembling, honest. And that honesty made millions of fans hold their breath. For a split second, the polished wall between idol and human broke, and what came through was a young man carrying the weight of the world's admiration, like it was both a blessing and a burden. But what truly shocked everyone wasn't just what he said, it was the moment after. His voice cracked, the camera trembled, and then, almost instinctively, he apologized. He said sorry for being too honest, sorry for worrying fans, sorry for being emotional. That's when people realized something was off. The broadcast ended abruptly, and within minutes, social media went wild. Clips circulated everywhere. "Is Jimin okay?" became a trending topic in dozens of countries. Big Hit reportedly went into crisis mode. Staff members who'd been monitoring the live rushed to check on him, not because he'd done something wrong, but because he'd said something too real. The company quickly released a short statement saying he was resting and thankful for fans' concern. But the damage, or maybe the awakening, had already been done. The world saw Jimin not as an idol, but as a person breaking under silent pressure. Behind the scenes, insiders later revealed that Jimin had been struggling with perfectionism. He'd been rehearsing longer than anyone else, re-recording vocals for hours, worrying that every performance had to meet impossible standards. The live broadcast was the first time those cracks showed in real time. Yet, ironically, it became one of the most defining moments of his career. Fans began to rally not just around his talent, but around his humanity. The Live incident sparked important conversations about mental health in the K-pop industry, an industry that often prizes image over emotion. And Jimin, without meaning to, became a voice for vulnerability. In later interviews, he admitted that the incident had scared him not because of backlash, but because he realized how fragile he'd become while trying to be strong for everyone else. That realization changed him. When Promise was released shortly after, fans could feel the transformation. It wasn't just a song, it was a healing letter. The soft melody, the gentle tone, the lyrics about finding comfort and self-forgiveness, they all reflected a Jimin who had learned to accept imperfection. Even Big Hit's staff, who had been initially worried, later admitted that Jimin's moment of honesty helped the group evolve. It made BTS more open, more grounded. They began speaking more candidly about burnout, anxiety, and the emotional toll of fame. What once felt like a PR nightmare turned into a cultural shift. Years later, when fans re-watch that live, they don't see a mistake, they see courage. They see a young man who didn't hide his tears, who showed that strength doesn't always mean smiling through pain. Because of that one live broadcast, the way idols talk about their feelings changed forever. Jimin's unplanned confession became a quiet revolution, proof that even in a world built on perfection, authenticity still has the power to move millions. Number 4. V's accidental leak that made HYBE panic overnight. It began with a single tap, one unplanned move on a phone screen, and within minutes, chaos rippled through HYBE headquarters. It was late at night in Seoul, and V, known for his mysterious charm and spontaneous personality, decided to go live on Weverse to casually talk with fans. It was one of those nights when he just wanted to share music, laugh a little, and connect. But what happened next turned that simple interaction into a sleepless night for the entire BTS team. During the stream, V switched his camera for a split second and accidentally revealed something on his phone that wasn't meant for public eyes. It wasn't anything scandalous or personal in a dangerous way, but it was sensitive. A private message thread, a note about an upcoming unreleased project, or perhaps a screenshot hinting at future BTS plans. Whatever it was, fans caught it instantly. Within seconds, screenshots spread across social media faster than wildfire. The live ended abruptly, and V's name shot to the top of trending lists worldwide. Did Taehyung just leak something? Was that a new BTS logo? Did he show a staff chat? Speculation grew like lightning. In the K-pop world, where every comeback is planned to the second, even a small leak can throw entire strategies off balance. And this one wasn't small, it was V, the global face of luxury, mystery, and cool confidence, suddenly at the center of a massive corporate panic. Inside HYBE, the response was immediate. Staff scrambled to control what was spreading, issuing takedown requests and analyzing how much had actually been exposed. The company, known for its tight control, found itself watching helplessly as millions of fans dissected every blurred image, every timestamp, every reflection in the screen. V, meanwhile, realized what had happened moments after the stream ended. Those who know him say he felt guilty, not because he broke a rule, but because he knew how much work goes into planning every BTS move. He reportedly called staff immediately, apologizing again and again, worried that his spontaneity had created trouble. But this wasn't the first time V's curiosity had walked a thin line. He's always been the member who blurs the boundary between idol and individual, the one who follows instinct more than image. It's part of what fans love about him, but also what sometimes gives HYBE headaches. Still, the incident became one of the most unforgettable moments in BTS's digital history. For the next 48 hours, media outlets speculated about what exactly had been shown. Fans debated whether to share screenshots or delete them out of respect. Even ARMY, known for their discipline, split between curiosity and protection. Some tried to decode clues, others flooded social media with messages asking people to stop spreading the content. What stood out wasn't just the mistake, it was how everyone reacted. For the first time, fans saw the thin line BTS walks between privacy and performance. The moment also revealed how fragile the world of global fame really is. 1 second of unfiltered reality can undo months of calculated image control. But here's what made this incident uniquely BTS. Instead of hiding or pretending it didn't happen, V addressed it with calm sincerity. In a later post, he joked about his mistake, lightly teasing himself and turning it into a moment of human warmth. Fans loved him even more for it. What could have been a PR disaster became another reminder that BTS aren't robots, they're real people living under a microscope. And that honesty, once again, saved them. Inside HYBE, though, lessons were learned. After that night, new security measures were reportedly implemented. Live broadcasts became more closely monitored, and the staff briefed the members about digital awareness before every stream. But even so, fans can't help but remember that moment as one of the most V things ever: unpredictable, chaotic, sincere, and unforgettable. Years later, that accidental leak has become part of BTS lore, a story retold in fan circles with laughter and nostalgia. Because, in the end, it didn't hurt the band. If anything, it showed the world that even global icons can make simple, human mistakes. And maybe that's why people connect with them so deeply, because their slip-ups don't ruin their image. They make it real. Number 3. Suga's collaboration scandal when music met misunderstanding. It was meant to be a bold, artistic statement, a fusion of sound, history, and raw emotion. But instead, it became one of the most misunderstood chapters in BTS's entire career. The year was 2020. The world was in chaos, and so was the entertainment industry. While most artists went silent, Suga, under his solo alias August D, released his highly anticipated mixtape, D2. It was everything fans expected from him: sharp, fearless, unfiltered. But buried within that brilliance was one brief moment, a sample, just a few seconds long, that would ignite a firestorm. In one of the tracks, What Do You Think?, listeners discovered a voice sample that, at first, seemed like a cinematic choice. But within hours, internet sleuths identified it as a speech by a controversial historical figure, a detail that completely shifted the context of the song. Fans and media outlets quickly debated its meaning. Was it artistic commentary, political symbolism, or an unintentional mistake? The conversation spiraled fast. International headlines questioned BTS's moral stance. Online communities polarized. And for the first time in years, the group's image, usually pristine, was at the center of a global controversy. Suga, known for his intelligence and thoughtfulness, was stunned. He had always treated his solo work as a space for deep self-expression, darker, raw, and freer than BTS's group material. The idea behind D2 was to explore the tension between fame and identity, power and vulnerability. That sample, he later explained, was chosen for its emotional resonance, not its political context. But context, in the age of the internet, is fragile. Once people formed their interpretations, it no longer mattered what he intended. The damage had been done. HYBE, then known as Big Hit Entertainment, moved swiftly. Within days, they issued an official apology and re-uploaded the song with the sample removed. The company clarified that Suga had not personally chosen the voice clip, that it had been selected by a producer, and that they took full responsibility for the oversight. But for Suga, the event wasn't just a management issue, it was personal. He had always been meticulous with his art, known to write, produce, and refine every detail himself. To see his work questioned so harshly cut deep. Behind the scenes, insiders later shared that Suga isolated himself for days after the incident. He wasn't angry, he was reflective. He began questioning how easily intention can be lost in translation, especially when art crosses cultures. To him, it was a lesson in humility and in how massive BTS's platform had become. When you speak to millions, even silence makes noise. Even art needs caution. But out of that moment of tension came transformation. Suga didn't retreat from making meaningful music, he became even more deliberate. His next projects, both as August D and as part of BTS, carried a sharper awareness of audience and impact. His later songs, like People PT2 and Amygdala, reflect an artist who understands the weight of expression and the cost of misunderstanding. What's fascinating is how fans remember the scandal now. Most don't recall it as a stain on his legacy, but as a chapter in his evolution. It revealed something that few artists ever face so publicly: the gap between artistic freedom and social responsibility. And Suga, rather than shrinking from that challenge, turned it into a lifelong lesson. In later interviews, he spoke about how the incident taught him empathy, how creators must not only think about what they want to say, but how it might be heard. That insight has since shaped his approach to everything from his world tours to his collaborations with artists across genres. The controversy, though painful, expanded his worldview. It forced him to see that being a global artist isn't just about creating, it's about communicating across borders of language, history, and ideology. In the end, the collaboration scandal wasn't about scandal at all. It was about sensitivity. It was about realizing that art, while personal, lives in public. And sometimes, public interpretation can transform meaning entirely. But instead of silencing him, the incident refined him. It made Suga, and by extension, BTS, more aware, more mature, and more human. The incident also marked one of the first times HYBE and BTS publicly addressed controversy with transparency. That honesty built trust instead of breaking it. Fans saw accountability, not denial, and that distinction became a defining feature of how BTS handled every challenge after. Years later, D2 is still hailed as one of the most honest and fearless works in modern K-pop. The track in question? It's now viewed as a symbol of growth, proof that even mistakes can become stepping stones when faced with integrity. For Suga, that chapter became more than a crisis. It became a mirror, showing him that even when the world misunderstands your art, the only thing you can control is your truth. And that's what makes Suga's story resonate. Not perfection, but persistence. Because in music, as in life, it's not about avoiding mistakes. It's about what you learn when they happen. Number 2. Jin's statement that divided ARMY for weeks. When Jin speaks, the world listens not because he's the loudest voice in BTS, but because every word he says carries the weight of reason, honesty, and quiet courage. But in one particular moment, even that signature calm turned into a spark that ignited one of the most emotionally charged debates in ARMY history. What did Jin actually say that made fans question everything they thought they knew about BTS's unity, their future, and their own loyalty? Let's go back to the scene that started it all. It was late 2022, a delicate moment for BTS. The world's biggest group had just announced their temporary pause in group activities. Emotions were raw, uncertainty was everywhere, and even though the members appeared calm on camera, fans could feel the invisible tension beneath. Then came Jin's live stream, quiet, unfiltered, and as always with him, honest to the bone. He said something that sounded simple on the surface. "Sometimes, I wonder if all of this is really worth it. I just want to live like Kim Seokjin, not Jin of BTS." That single sentence echoed across every fandom platform within hours. Some armies understood it immediately. They saw it as a moment of truth, a confession from someone who'd carried fame for too long. Others felt uneasy, even betrayed. Was Jin saying he wanted to leave BTS? Was he tired of the fame that millions dreamed of? Why now, when the group was already facing a storm of uncertainty? To understand the full meaning of that line, you have to go back years before the fame, before the world tours. Jin was never meant to be an idol. He was a student of acting, a quiet soul who entered the entertainment industry almost by accident. Hybe, then Big Hit, scouted him not because of his vocal skills, but because of his presence, the charisma that didn't need explanation. When BTS debuted, Jin was often seen as the visual, the handsome one. And for a long time, that label stuck, limiting how people saw him. But deep down, he was far more than that. A thinker, a caretaker, a realist in a group full of dreamers. So when he said those words in 2022, it wasn't rebellion. It was exhaustion wrapped in honesty. Jin was the oldest member, the one who had to face the reality of military enlistment first, the one who quietly watched his younger brothers rise higher and higher while knowing that soon he'd have to step back. It's not that he didn't love BTS, it's that he loved them enough to face the truth no one else could say out loud, that even legends need to pause, breathe, and rediscover who they are. For weeks, army debates raged. Some defended Jin fiercely. "He's just being human," they said. Others argued he shouldn't say things that make fans worry. The tension was so real that it even affected online fan communities. Hashtags appeared both supporting and questioning him. But beneath all the noise, one thing became clear. Jin had done something no idol dared to do. He had shattered the illusion of perfection that surrounded BTS. Because in the polished world of K-pop, vulnerability is risky. Every word is measured, every smile rehearsed. But Jin never played by that script. His statement was not a scandal, it was a mirror. A mirror reflecting what every artist secretly feels but rarely says. And that's why it hit so hard. Fans weren't just hearing Jin's thoughts, they were confronting their own fear of change, their own attachment to an image of BTS that could never stay frozen in time. Behind the scenes, insiders later revealed that Jin's honesty also sparked important conversations within the group itself. RM, ever the leader, reportedly thanked Jin for saying what others couldn't. Jungkook and Jimin, who often rely on emotional connection, both mentioned how Jin's words made them think about their own identities beyond the group. Even Hybe, known for its tight media control, allowed Jin's comment to remain online unedited, a rare move that showed respect for his authenticity. But here's the twist most people missed. Jin's statement didn't divide ARMY because it was controversial. It divided ARMY because it was true. It forced fans to grow up with BTS, to accept that the boys they loved were no longer boys, but men with dreams, doubts, and limits. And if you listen closely to what Jin said after the uproar, there's wisdom in his calm follow-up. In another live stream weeks later, he smiled softly and said, "You don't have to worry. BTS is forever. But forever doesn't mean we stop living as ourselves." That was it, the missing piece that brought balance back. What Jin had done was redefine loyalty. He reminded the world that real love for a group, an artist, a dream, doesn't mean chaining them to the stage. It means letting them evolve, even when it hurts. It means cheering not only for the performer, but for the person behind the lights. As 2023 unfolded, and Jin entered military service, fans finally began to understand what he meant all along. Photos of him in uniform flooded the internet, smiling, grounded, and at peace. Suddenly, the words that once divided people made perfect sense. He wasn't walking away from BTS, he was protecting it by making sure each member, including himself, stayed real. Today, that moment is often remembered as Jin's turning point. A moment when an idol stopped performing and started speaking. A moment when truth became more powerful than any choreography or award. And maybe, in the quietest, most Jin-like way possible, he taught the world something BTS had been saying in their songs for years. Love yourself. But this time, Jin didn't just say it, he lived it. Number 1. The one decision BTS regret most, the moment that almost ended their unity. There are moments in history that even legends wish they could erase, moments that test not only fame, but friendship, loyalty, and everything that holds a dream together. For BTS, that moment wasn't about a failed performance, a scandal, or a controversy in the media. It was a decision made behind closed doors. One that almost broke them apart before the world even realized how close they came to losing everything. This is that story. To understand it, you have to go back to 2018, a year that most fans remember as the peak of BTS's success. Fake Love was everywhere, their US breakthrough was unstoppable, and they had just performed at the Billboard Music Awards as global icons. On the outside, it looked like a golden age, but behind the spotlight, the group was crumbling under invisible pressure. Constant touring, recording, media obligations, and personal sacrifices had turned what once felt like a dream into an exhausting routine. And then came times the decision, times a private, late-night meeting in a quiet hotel room during their world tour. It was supposed to be a short talk about scheduling and rest time. Instead, it became the most emotionally charged conversation BTS had ever faced. For the first time, the word times, disbandment times, was spoken out loud. Yes, BTS, the group that stood for love, unity, and hope, seriously considered ending everything right there. In that meeting, each member took turns speaking. RM, as always, was the first to break the silence. He confessed that he felt like he was losing himself. "We keep saying love yourself, but I don't even know who I am anymore," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Jin admitted he had been thinking about leaving for months, feeling guilty for holding back the others because of his age. Suga confessed that music, the thing that once gave him freedom, now felt like a burden. Even Jungkook, the youngest and the most passionate about performing, admitted that he had moments of doubt. "I wake up and I don't know what we're doing this for anymore," he said quietly. Jimin cried openly. Taehyung stared at the floor for most of the talk, then finally said, "If this is hurting us, what's the point?" That night, there was no cheering, no encouragement, no performance masks. Just 7 young men facing the possibility that their journey together might be over. The next morning, they went to the stage like nothing had happened, a sold-out concert in Hong Kong. Fans screamed their names, cameras flashed, lights burned, and BTS did what they always did. They gave their all. But when the music stopped and the members gathered backstage, there was a strange silence. It was then that Jungkook, who had been quiet all day, looked at everyone and said the words that changed everything. "If we're going to stop, let's end it on a stage, not in sadness, but in gratitude. But if we still have something to say, even one more song left inside us, let's not give up now." Those words hit the group like lightning. RM later said in an interview that Jungkook's statement reminded him why BTS existed in the first place. "We didn't start this to be idols," he said. "We started this because we believed music could save us." And suddenly, that belief returned. They decided not to end. They decided to fight. But the truth is, that night never left them. Every member later admitted that the thought of disbanding times haunted them for months afterward. Even as Love Yourself, Answer, became a global phenomenon, and their stadium tours sold out across continents, there was still that lingering question. What if they had said yes to ending it all? The real weight of that decision hit hardest when they performed Spring Day together at the 2018 Mama Awards. RM gave a speech that fans still talk about to this day. "We were thinking about disbanding earlier this year, but we gathered our hearts again, and we realized we're still here because of you." The audience went silent before bursting into tears. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't PR. It was raw truth, spoken live on one of the biggest stages in Asia. After that confession, something shifted inside BTS. They started to see success differently, not as a ladder to climb, but as a promise to protect. Their music became even more personal, more transparent. Songs like Magic Shop, Black Swan, and Yet to Come were no longer just lyrics. They were emotional survival letters to themselves and to ARMY. Behind the scenes, the company also changed its approach. Hybe, then Big Hit, realized that pushing the group to exhaustion could destroy their greatest strength, their humanity. New contracts included mandatory rest periods, personal time, and creative control clauses that gave each member the space to breathe. The decision to continue wasn't just about staying together, it was about redefining what togetherness meant. But here's what makes this moment so unforgettable. The regret didn't come from almost disbanding. It came from realizing how close they came to losing their purpose. BTS learned that success can be more dangerous than failure because it blinds you to what matters. That night in Hong Kong forced them to remember who they were. 7 people, not 7 brands. And when you listen to their songs after 2018, you can feel it, the new clarity, the maturity, the quiet strength that comes from surviving something no one else knew about. Black Swan was their artistic confession of that fear, the fear of losing passion. Life Goes On was their acceptance of imperfection. Yet to Come was their promise to themselves that no matter how far they go, they will never forget the reason they started. The moment that almost ended BTS became the very thing that saved them. It reminded them that unity isn't about never fighting or never doubting. It's about choosing again and again to stay even when it would be easier to walk away. Today, when fans look back at that speech, they don't see a near ending. They see rebirth. They see the moment BTS stopped being just a band and became something larger, a symbol of endurance, authenticity, and brotherhood. And maybe that's why their bond feels different from any other group in the world. Because it wasn't built on perfection. It was built on pain, honesty, and the courage to admit they almost fell apart before rising higher than ever. So, what's the one decision BTS regret most? It's not the world tours, the endless rehearsals, or the sleepless nights. It's the moment they almost forgot why they began. But that regret became their redemption. And in that redemption, BTS didn't just save their group, they saved themselves.